Hello and welcome to another Comics Burst from the Full Force podcast, sponsored by Distant Planet Comics and Collectibles, where we take an in-depth look at the newest G.I. Joe comics and related titles of the week, with me as your host, Chris, is it nearly over yet, McLeod, aka Diagnosticating, and joining me for this episode is Brian, no Chris, it's not, Hickey. On this instalment of your absolutely favourite kind of burst, we look at the latest issue of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 274. So without further ado, let's get stuck in, shall we? Snake Hunt Part 9. Cobra Commander wants a Snake Eyes of his own, yada yada yada, etc, etc. How many more times do I have to read the same intro every single time?
I'll read the intro, okay? I'm going to read the intro.
For a change.
Snake Hunt Part 9. Cobra Commander wants a Snake Eyes of his own. The Joes have other ideas. It's all hands on deck for both G.I. Joe and Cobra as living legend Larry Hama and fan favorite artist Robert Atkins and Nitho Diaz continue this massive 10-issue event. There's no halftime break in this contest, folks. All action, all the time.
Perfect. It's nice to actually get someone else to do that for a change, because I've read that it's like literally the same every single week. I'm like, IDW never put anything. They never like, considering there's a synopsis in the comic, I'm surprised they don't pop that up there. Anyway, same as always here. It's either Nitho or Robert. That's usually the difference here. But it's writer Larry Hama, artist Nitho Diaz, inks Tiago Gomez and Maria Keane. Colours Jay Brown, letters Neil Uyatake, senior editor Tom Waltz, editor Megan Brown, and research assistant Diana Davis. So let's get stuck into these covers then, Brian, which obviously viewers won't know this, but in the last time we did a Comics Burst, we forgot to cover the covers and had to record again to make sure that happened. So this time that will not happen. We've got cover A, Robert Atkins with Jay Brown on colours, and it is another Snake Eyes, I would say Snake Eyes only cover, but we've got Dawn Moreno in there as well, cutting a Cobra banner as she appears in the background, with Snake Eyes in the foreground shooting at the reader, as it were. What do you think about this one, buddy?
This is a bloody brilliant cover. I mean, all the covers that Robert has kind of done in this one are just superb. I mean, it's all action Snake Eyes, lots of lovely detail. Getting the addition of kind of Dawn Moreno on this cover here, I think is fantastic, because for most of them, it's just been Snake Eyes on his own. This looks, again, it's classic Robert Atkins, loads of lovely detail, as I said, full on action. And, it feels like the characters are practically breaking out of the cover, coming at you. It's super.
Cleopatra coming at you. Yeah, I like this one too. I think it's really nice, really cool, vibrant, aggressive cover, and that's what we like to see. Action packed. Now we also have cover B, which is the continuation of Jamie Sullivan's connecting covers, and that is a pretty nice one as well. And we've got the Sky Strikers and the X-30 Conquests in the top in the background doing the flyover. You've got an element of the American flag, kind of like the red and white stripes floating in from the right-hand side. And then you've got all of the characters, that make up this issue. A lot of the female characters on this one as well, which is cool. We've got like Lady J and Scarlet and Helix, etc. We've got the kind of winter operations unit as well. Like if you look, you've got Iceberg and Frostbite and Snow Job and Wind Chill and Blizzard and Sub-Zero and... Yeah, it's pretty cool, and Snowstorm, I believe. So you've got like again really awesome lineup of characters here. What about this one for you, mate?
This actually is the cover variant that I'm collecting, so I'm really liking. This will be my kind of favourite of the covers.
Yeah,
they all look super, by the way. They all look great, but I particularly like this one, and I'm looking forward to having that kind of full run where I can join them all together. I really like the art style on this as well. So it's a little bit more, I suppose, minimalist or more abstracted compared to, say, Robert Atkins' stylized work. But I think that works really well for all the different characters, and it can kind of get little, they almost have these kind of little quirks and personality traits kind of worked in, with their facial expressions, their body language. So it's kind of a fun cover. This is definitely one I'm glad I'm picking this variant up.
Yeah, Backblast is doing a cute, like, he's kind of almost like center middle, where he's doing like, he's got his arms open wide, kind of like, and his hands look really big, Yeah, that's quite a cute one they've done for Backblast. And then you've also got, Dial Tone holding Breaker's portrait. A Breaker, of course, who passed away in the A Real American Hero universe, as it were. And another character I'd like to point out on this one, which is really cool to see, actually, is Sightline, which obviously was the Gary Goggles head homage, official homage in the, Hasbro G.I. Joe kind of universe.
Yes.
It was the first time they'd ever used, a known name for the character file name. The first time that's ever happened, and it was all done in conjunction with his estate and his family. So it was really nice that, obviously that we get that on this cover as well. And I thought it was worth kind of pointing out. And also a couple of favourites of mine on there. We've got Recoil, bottom right, and we've got Psych Out in there too. So I mean, it's a really cool cover as always from Jamie Sullivan. And yeah, so no more to say on that one, really. But going through now to the retailer incentive, and we have your classic John Royal not happening in the issue, but hell, why don't we just make a really cool, ridiculous front cover? And it's Copperhead in his water moccasin, firing in the kind of gun emplacement aspect of the water moccasin. Really interesting, vibrant, attacky, aggressive. Action-packed cover. What are your thoughts on this one, Brian?
Absolutely. Every month when we talk about these, I'm loving the John Royal covers. He never disappoints. It's always got nothing to do with the issue, and it looks visually amazing as well. I don't recall seeing Copperhead in this particular story so far.
That's true.
And we're supposed to have all these characters, so maybe John Royal is kind of like the guy who's going to help get the characters in there with their cover appearances, maybe. But this is a super cover. I love that kind of the green cast off the water moccasin, and obviously as part of Copperhead's uniform, and then echoed in the jungle or kind of maybe Everglades kind of foliage in the back.
Yeah, it looks like palm trees in the background as well, doesn't it? So yeah, very kind of Floridian.
Very intense, the water splashing up behind, bullets coming off the canopy of the moccasin. I mean, it's super. John Royal, again, he doesn't disappoint. Super covers every time.
Yeah, coming to your point on Copperhead, he's usually kind of with the dreadnoks in like the swamp kind of things, isn't he? I wonder if at any point in Snake Hunt have we seen him? That is, I might have to go through the entire run again just to see if he pops up. But if not, we've still got another issue to go after this one. Anyway, and also I should also mention, on Jamie Sullivan's cover, Jesse Heagy and Audrey Sullivan were the colours. Did the colours on that, and obviously inks are by Jagdish Kumar and colours James O'Frady on this John Royal cover. So moving through, we actually have quite a lot. We've got 4 East Side Comics exclusive covers now. They're kind of like almost like paired into, they're almost put into pairs, these kind of covers. The first one is the Scarlet in Helicopter exclusive by Kirill Repin. And it's and also he's done another one of Scarlet Standing as well. That's the official name of the exclusive. Now, what are your thoughts on these ones, Brian? Very photo kind of realistic attempted here, and also quite highly sexualized in a sense, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's totally, on these Scarlet covers. I mean, it's like a fashion model, not a military expert.
Yeah.
So I think he's probably maybe missed the mark here a little bit in terms of the actual character, but visually these are beautifully illustrated covers.
Yeah.
Highly detailed, with that kind of photorealism effect. It kind of reminds me of the Ladybird books from the 1970s, where the paintings that appeared in those books were like super detailed.
Probably not as sexualized though.
No.
Just imagine that, couldn't you? Here's your Ladybird book as a kid. Blimey, Dad, I'm not sure if I can read this. Super
artwork. I mean, really is, not to take away from the skill and the craftsmanship to create these covers, but I think from a character perspective, nothing to do with Scarlet. It's they missed the mark.
Yeah, these kind of covers never really, I don't know, they just kind of rub me the wrong way sometimes. And like you say, beautifully drawn, like really expertly done, but like at the same time, it doesn't really do anything for me. They're certainly not covers I'll be kind of after in that sense. And then we have another pairing of Mike Mayhew covers. Now he did in like the previous issue, he did a couple of covers for East Side Comics of the Baroness in her kind of evening gown wear and in like a uniform, like a different uniform. And he's done again, and obviously that was from the episode, it was kind of homaging Ode to Cobra from the Sunbow series, where the Baroness wore that dress on a boat as her and Lady J fought for the not the affections of this billionaire, but like the attention of the Joes were trying to stop Cobra, basically, what's the word, exploiting this billionaire, effectively using this mind-controlled perfume. Now, as ridiculous as that sounds, and you can watch the Action Force version of that on the Action Force VHS watch-alongs that we do on the Facebook page. That's the video still up there if you want to find that. It's a fun episode. But obviously, Mike Mayhew's done that again with Lady J here. He's got her in the white ball gown, which, holding the spear it's a wooden spear. It looks very like old school, and a friggin' like bazooka rocket launcher kind of job on the other arm. Now, the other version of this cover is Lady J in the same pose but wearing her usual green uniform, sitting actually on a big tire, which is interesting. What are your thoughts on these, Brian? And again, like, take me through what you think of these.
I mean, again, the craft and the skill in the illustration is superb. I mean, Mike Mayhew's work on this cover and on the Baroness cover, super detailed, and again, lots of going for that kind of photorealistic look. It's it does always amaze me that an artist can get that level of detail in there. I mean, they're magnificently illustrated. I mean, they're both beautiful. Obviously, the pose is mirrored from one image to the other. It's almost as if he's got like a base layer in Photoshop and he can turn the layers on and off, and the outfits change, which is probably not how he did it at all, but that's just kind of what I imagined in my mind. Yeah. But it's the only way it's a good analogy for how identical the two poses are. She's even sitting on the tire in the ball gown dress. It's just the ball gown dress is covering, it's spread over the tire. But it's great. I think it's maybe a little bit less sexualized from the Scarlet variant, but again, probably still a little bit. Lady J looks a little bit vacant in the face, and I always imagine that she's definitely a much more formidable character than perhaps what's coming across here. So again, beautifully illustrated, but I think maybe missed the mark a little bit on the characterization of Lady J. But again, loads of fans will love this, and they'll be going after this particular variant. As I said, superb illustration from Mike Mayhew.
Yep. Okay. Cool. I agree with that, and I think we can kind of get into the actual issue now. So quite a few covers on this one, as we tend to get quite a few covers. 3 at the least, minimum, and then about 55 maximum. So getting into
that's not even a joke. We have had 55 covers.
Dead Game was crazy. Anyway, G.I. Joe Real American Hero issue 274. In the last issue, we were left believing that one of the airborne insertion team were about to blow the doors, and the other side, waiting for them, were Night Creepers, Crimson Guard Immortals, etc., etc. That wasn't the case. As Wetsuit and Torpedo, and we open basically at the Springfield Community Centre, where pretty much everyone is converged on now. We've got Torpedo and Wetsuit literally about to click and blow the doors. They blow the doors off, and 2 levels below it says that's where the Night Creepers, the Night Vipers, and the Crimson Guard teams were, and they go, wait, that was the blast doors. The community centre is compromised. So immediately, what I really like about this particular issue is that we were taken in one direction in the last one, and it's a completely... And I think we did even mention it in the last episode that we spoke about this, didn't we, Brian, about... I wonder if that is actually on the other side of the doors waiting for them.
We did. And again, I suppose it was deliberately unclear where our kind of Joes were coming in and where our Cobra defenses were set up. But certainly, very quickly, Larry makes it super clear that the Joes are still up on the ground level, and all the action in terms of throwdown and what's happening with the Cobra defenses is a couple of levels down, nearer obviously where the lab is essentially.
What I really love about this particular opening is the kind of the team up between certain Vipers and certain types of Cobra personnel, and the fact they've got the Crimson Guard with the Night Vipers and the Night Creepers, I think is a really cool team up. But again, something I did mention in the last episode, wouldn't it have been great if it had been Shadow Guard, the all black Crimson Guard, as opposed to the actual Crimson Guard? I think that would have been even better, because it would have made even more sense with the kind of night aspect of night Vipers and Night Creepers.
Yes, and of course, that's what we're going to see now as we get into this. There's going to be a complete blackout in the installation, and of course the Shadow Guard would have been just very appropriately positioned for that kind of action.
Totally. So yeah, so basically what happens is Joe have just blown the doors off. I told you, blow the bloody doors off. And the Crimson Guard Immortal basically gives the order to the Crimson Guards, you're going to go to the stairwell. He tells the Crimson Guard to go to the stairwell where the insertion team have just broken through. He tells the Night Vipers to go down the secret tunnel and hold it. And he tells the Night Creepers to go down the security corridor and terminate the prisoner Snake Eyes. So that's the orders from this CG. They go off and split up into different teams again, which again is really cool and kind of opens it out in the story. And then we get the security corridor and we see Cobra Commander and Dr. Mindbender still both injured. Dr. Mindbender only got a graze on his knee, so he's okay. But Cobra Commander got actually kneecapped by by Throwdown. So then we see Throwdown kind of sneaking through the installation, and on his tail, and what I think, I'm not sure if it's unbeknownst to Throwdown, but Laura is right on his tail.
So I'm thinking that, she, certainly in this panel here, she's practically on top of him. We flash back to the last issue. Laura kind of recovers from, being kind of knocked out by Throwdown, and she comes after he's kneecapped, Cobra Commander and injured Mindbender. She starts to pursue him. But he doesn't necessarily know that she's pursuing him. So I'm going to assume that even though it looks like she's almost on top of him, that he doesn't know. He's not quite aware that he's being pursued at this stage.
Yeah.
But before, or maybe another way to look at it is that she's almost ready to pounce.
Yeah.
And suddenly the Crimson Guard pull the switch, and the lights in the entire installation at the community centre in Springfield, the lower levels and the adjoining tunnel all just go black, full blackout.
Yeah, and then as you turn the page, we have the insertion team, the airborne insertion team kind of coming down the stairs, which is Ripcord, Lady J, Tunnel Rat, Muskrat, Freefall, and Airborne. Whew. And obviously you've got Wetsuit and Torpedo, who are kind of on the tail of this crew, blowing things up behind them as they go. So as they're coming down the stairwell, they can't see a damn thing. The Night Creepers are kind of they've got their night vision, and they can see that someone is down the hall, but they don't know who it is. That's Laura. And then you can see that they're basically they're kind of converging on on Throwdown every time. They're converging on Throwdown. And then we flip over to what's happening outside with the October Guard, who have basically taken over a column of HISS tanks, and all of the vehicles basically flooding their way. And what's really cool and interesting about this kind of page here is that we've got quite a number of different kind of cute homages. We've got the HISS 2, which came out in '89, the kind of bluey grey colour with the red on the left hand side. That's the HISS 2. Then you've got what I think is the Paralyzer tank. It's drawn slightly different than a Paralyzer tank, and the colour's slightly different, but I'm pretty sure it is a Paralyzer. Obviously, the toy was a little bit kind of more orangey and a bit more stock, and the treads were slightly different, but I can see what they're going for, and I'm pretty sure it is the Paralyzer tank. And then behind that, you have what you might just think is another HISS 2. It is a HISS 2, but I think it's the HISS 2B, which came out in 2003, which is a much brighter blue colour, has a different, bigger, heavier gun on the top of it. And again, that different colour kind of stands out quite dramatically. So that's the Hiss 2B. And then you've got the Cobra Rage, which came out in 90, I believe. And that is on that's on the far right. So you've got this kind of like really interesting group of Cobra vehicles from completely different eras, 89, 90, 91 and 2003, kind of all kind of converging on this Hiss tank column of October Guard.
Actually, I love this sequence here. So we have, obviously, the reinforcements are coming in, and the October Guard are very quick to take some action to put up a staunch defense, but they're completely overwhelmed, and it has almost this feeling of like a last stand nearly, as they get ready for some serious action. We only get one panel of this, so it doesn't, the full battle doesn't unfold.
Yeah,
we just get a sense of a huge amount of Cobra armor coming in. The October Guard very quickly taking control of two. I think they've got two Hiss tanks, maybe three.
I think three. Yeah.
They're kind of firing back, and then it cuts away back to where we left Throwdown just a page before.
Yeah, and then obviously one of the Night Creepers spots Throwdown. He opens fire. Obviously, Throwdown has got that Alley Viper shield, so he hides behind that. Now he knows where they are, and Laura tells him that as she gets hit in the shoulder. Or possibly in the shoulder, or the maybe in the chest or something. But she gets hit with one of the deflected shots off the shield. Throwdown immediately now knows where everyone is, throws the shield, takes out one of the Night Creepers, and then gets to firing off his Uzi to take out others. And then obviously, as we're in a different part, we're in the secret tunnel. Now we've got the Night Vipers. They bump into Granny, and it's
some old lady.
It's brilliant. They surround her. They're like, she can't hear us or see us, and she just literally, and they're like, what's in her bag? And then she just unleashes. It's a brick, of course, and just like takes out all of these Night Vipers, that are surrounded her, completely messes up all their night vision. And then that's where Storm Shadow and the rest of the Arashikage team come in and take out the rest. And it's just funny that she says at the end, they never expect the ear that sees, which is her that's her Arashikage kind of mantra, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I love that. I mean, Granny Arashikage, what a character. She's the kind of granny you'd want to have. She's
Granashikage. Sorry. Arashi Granny.
Then we flash back to outside, and the October Guard are putting up, as you said, putting up a staunch defense, but they are taking a hiding. They're completely overwhelmed by the Cobra reinforcements. And we get a situation where Dragonsky and Stormovic's Hiss tank is destroyed. They've got to jump for it. And even Dana is injured, and it's Horror Show has to kind of rescue her from a burning Hiss tank. Yeah. And we don't really know at this stage how bad the damage is. I mean, she's certainly unconscious, but we don't know if it's any worse than that.
Yeah.
And Brekov is kind of still giving, he seems to be the only Hiss tank that's still operational. He's giving cover fire as the rest of his crew try and get to cover.
Absolutely. And then back in the security corridor, Throwdown is flipping around, shooting Night Creepers left, right and centre, taking them all out. And then when he's finished taking them all out, which they're amazed at because they don't understand how he can, without night vision, how he can kind of see them and take them out. And then as he lands, he kind of turns around and you get the kind of realization that Laura is alive. She's making a noise and she's on the floor. And then obviously that's the last we see of what's going on there. So this issue has been really good at gives you a piece of the action on one page and then flips you over to the next page and you've got action going on there and then flips you over to the next page and you see the action going on there. So it's kind of zipping in and out of all the different places, but page by page. And it makes this issue very action packed, very fun to read as well. Lots going on. And then we see the airborne insertion team. Now, going up from the bottom all the way to the top, we've got Ripcord, Lady J, Tunnel Rat, Muskrat, Freefall, finally, in his showing that it's Freefall, Airborne, Torpedo and Wetsuit coming down the stairs, and they're all taking out the Crimson Guard. And it is a very brutal, very intense panel, isn't it? Very splash page.
This gets a full page, and they are laying into the Crimson Guard. It's pretty intense. In fact, this spread, because on the next page we have the Dreadnoks coming into the battle. And I think this spread here are the two best pages in the whole issue, because the Dreadnoks' arrival onto the scene to kind of help the completely overwhelmed October Guard is absolutely, it's just one of those yes moments.
Also really, really visceral as well, isn't it? Where you've got the Thunder Machine like running over one of the Cobra Troopers and like tearing another one to shreds with that front gun.
They're not holding back at all. And, even got Buzzer and Zartan coming in on their bikes. It's just superb. I mean, what an entrance into the battle. It's fantastic.
Yeah, really. I mean, we've gone this far without mentioning how amazing the Nitho Diaz artwork is. So massive shout out to Nitho on this one. It's really, really beautifully drawn, inked beautifully by Tiago Gomez and Maria Keane, and Jay Brown's colours are just insane as well. So, I mean, this is a really beautiful to kind of look at comic so far, isn't it?
Absolutely. Visually stunning. And look, it's for anyone who hasn't read this yet, obviously, spoiler alert, we're going to spoil the whole comic for you. But it does look, it's action-packed and, beautifully illustrated and coloured.
We're still in with the Dreadnoks and the October Guard and outside the community centre, and just as it looks like the October Guard are making their last stand, they've made like a little grouping to then shoot the surrounding Cobra Troopers and Vipers that are kind of like, again, kind of basically kind of pinning them in. We get the Bongo the Balloon Bear van turn up and like run over about 7 Troopers and Vipers again. And it's really visceral. You've got one that's been flipped over the van. You've got one that's being knocked to the side. 2, maybe 3 that are being actually run over. One that's on literally been plastered to the front of the windscreen, and one off to the side. It's like, wow, he's Clutch is taking them all out, isn't he?
I love these little sound effects with the thud, whump, and crunch, and the guy underneath the crunch. I mean, it's there's even bits of the van breaking off from the impact into the melee. And of course, that's where Clutch gives the word to Brekoff and his crew to get in quick, and then all guns blazing, they kind of make for the van to kind of get them out of trouble.
And as we can see, Dana is still unconscious. Horishow's got her kind of like he's holding her. You can see her just behind Brekov, and the rest of the team are just kind of like surrounding her to kind of protect her, I guess, at this stage. So Dana is probably, I don't think she's going to die in this one, but I think she's out for the count at the moment. And then obviously we go back downstairs and we've got the Crimson Guard. Vipers now, we're seeing Vipers, like the standard Cobra Viper, they're converging. And we're all getting this kind of like, I don't know, like the coming together again of all of the teams. So, you've got Throwdown, who's carrying Laura. He bumps into the Arashikage team. They're in the secret tunnel at this stage. And then we also have those teams converging or like kind of teaming up with the Airborne Assault team who are dealing with the Crimson Guards, and Budo comes in and takes out the CG Immortal, and the rest of they clear up the rest of the Crimson Guards, and then that team are now one big group. So we're getting like the convergence of all these different teams now, and everyone's meeting up and combining, and Torpedo's still blowing things up, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things here. I mean, obviously, as Throwdown kind of stumbles upon the Arashikage as they're coming in, it could be Storm Shadow who asks, like, who's that he's carrying? It looks like a Crimson Guard. And it's not clear to us just yet why he's decided to go back and rescue Laura 343. She's obviously a lot of extra baggage for him to take out of a very, very dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know her anything. So he had no reason to rescue her.
I suppose maybe not shooting him when she had the chance. Maybe that's on his mind, the fact that she didn't shoot him.
She could have shot him many times and she didn't. So maybe that's what it is. But he's obviously got her. He's hooked up with the Arashikage. They're now going back the way they came in, effectively run into the rear guard of Crimson Guardsmen who were trying to come in behind them and cut their way through those guys. Before we cut back then to our aerial insertion crew, they look like they're blasting their way out of... Where are they blasting? What's Torpedo doing?
Oh no! So basically, these two teams have met up. They've converged. If you look at the bottom left-hand panel, they're like the aerial insertion team coming down the stairs have met up with the Arashikage. The Arashikage have taken out the rest of the Crimson Guards that they were dealing with, and now they're on the run, making their way out. And torpedoes just blowing up, like insertion, like behind them, so they can't be followed.
Dear.
So yeah, it's very action packed. It's very
there's so much
intense,
going on here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, even though I have read this, trying to keep up with it is like, whoa, what's going on?
It's
There's one for the outtakes.
Yeah, very much. And so as they make their way out, obviously we come flip back to the guys outside, and they're like, there's basically we've got more Cobra guys coming. It's the second relief column, and Zartan's there saying, he should have expected a pincer movement. They're outnumbered. We can maybe get the Thunder Machine to carve a hole out so that we can get through. And just as they're trying to work out what to do, in come G.I. Joe just in time. The kind of lead truck with the kind of the head guys all on it takes out a bunch of Cobras, and then all of the we'll see later that all of the heavy reinforcements turn up. But then we flip back downstairs again, and Heat Vipers and Troopers are making their way after the Arashikage and the Airborne Insertion Team. Cobra Commander, he wants basically them to kind of seal that area off, to kind of pin them in and keep them in the community centre.
To be fair, the Cobra defence actually has been a shambles when you think about it.
Big time.
We've had, like, with Cobra Commander and Dr. Mindbender, in the previous issue being kind of incapacitated by Throwdown.
Yeah.
We had a Viper in the previous issue giving orders on how they should try and deal with the situation as soon as Throwdown got loose.
Yeah.
Then we have the Crimson Guard or the CGs or the Crimson Guard Immortal try to take control of the situation in this issue and order the troops into certain scenarios to try and defend the installation. Completely fails. Now the Cobra forces have stumbled upon Cobra Commander and Dr. Mindbender, and Cobra Commander is very decisive in terms of taking control of the situation. And he grabs the radio off one of the Cobra troopers, and he's like, I want a reinforced CG unit to block off the secret tunnel at the hospital end. But of course they would do that. It's so obvious. And why hasn't that been ordered already?
Yeah. Totally.
And I want a heavy weapons platoon to seal it off from this end. And, I'm calling in all the reserves. Like it's a no nonsense. We're going to deal with this situation and recover some form of control over the whole situation.
Yeah, and then the Joes flip in when they're buses, and they start basically opening up on all of the reinforcements, Vipers and Cobra Troopers, and again a very visceral, violent image there as they're all getting taken out via the bus.
It did occur to me just on that with the buses, unless these are special, reinforced armor G.I. Joe buses, it's not the most tactical vehicle to use going into a firefight.
Not at all. No, they're going to be torn to shreds in actual fact, I imagine. So that's why they're getting ahead of the game and taking them all out first. And then obviously you got all the armor come up, but there's not enough space to kind of unload it. Like your rolling thunders and what have you. We're getting at the moment, like the Joes are there, but they can't really unleash at this moment in time, but they're there. That's the main thing. Mainframe can't contact the Airborne Insertion Team, but they can't get them because they're obviously deep down in the secret tunnels, out of any kind of FM range. And that's where we get the kind of finale of this particular issue.
Yes, and what a cliffhanger of a finale. So we have our Arashikage down, and before we even get into the tunnel, outside, as you say, Chris, the Joes can't unload their armor, and there's Cobra reinforcements just coming in from every direction. Down in the tunnel, the Arashikage and the aerial insertion team are coming up against the security team that have come in from the hospital end.
Yeah.
And Cobra Commander is sitting in his control tower or in his control room now, ready to remotely detonate the preset explosives in the middle of the tunnel. So that is going to effectively seal the fate of our Snake Eyes and the Arashikage team once those explosives are detonated.
Exactly, and that would literally take them all out, including his own men. So this is, this just kind of shows you what Cobra Commander's all about. As we already know, that's what he's all about anyway, is winning at any cost. Or, well, not that he wins very often, but you know what I mean. At any cost. And so we come to the end of this issue, and again, like a very, I don't know, like I think with this one, I was really impressed with the action in it. I think it was very kind of not non-stop. You turn the page, you've got something going on, turn the page again, you got another thing. It's like lots going on, and you've got different locations, albeit within the same location, different locations within that location that you're flipping back and forth with, seeing what's happening, and then the kind of coming together of those particular groups. And and now we're in a position where the Joes are outside with heavy weapons. All of the Cobras, literally all of Springfield, are coming and converging on the community center. Reserves, everyone they have. So it's going to be like this, I guess, a continuation of a big battle outside, and you've got Cobra Commander basically wanting to destroy an entire section of the community center underground to stop, throw down all the Joes that are in there and kill all of his men in one fell swoop. So lots going on in this issue.
This is the all action issue that we have been waiting for months.
Yeah, it's taken a while, hasn't it?
And to be fair to Larry and the team on this one, they have delivered.
Yeah, they have.
This is unbelievably brilliant. It's a cracker of an episode, and and a real, I think a great cliffhanger ending. Can't wait to sink my teeth into 275 now on the back of this.
Yeah, it's going to be the final part of Snake Hunt. It's also going to be a silent issue, I believe, which is very interesting. Like, I don't know how well, he's obviously going to conclude a lot of different things. I want to kind of make a few predictions here. I obviously have no idea what's going to happen, but I do get the feeling that Laura is going to be taken in as a prisoner by G.I. Joe, obviously, in that sense. I think Snake Eyes is basically just getting what he could be just thought of like a highly tactical target prisoner to then interrogate. It's a high-level target that could give them a lot of information. I think that's what he thinks and is why he's picking her up. And also the fact that she hasn't shot him at any moment. She's always been, I suppose, honourable in that sense. And that's another aspect as to why she's survived, why he wants her to survive in this particular story. And I'm also intrigued as to what's going to happen in that tunnel. Like, maybe I really can't say what he's going to do. Maybe he's going to kill everyone in there. Could you imagine? Like, all the Arashikage gone.
Well, that would be a shock.
Like, every Snake Eyes we have left gone.
No, he's definitely gone now. Well, I am curious to see what's going to happen down there. I had to remind myself if Milo was still with the Arashikage, and we do see him in one of the panels kind of trucking along there when the aerial insertion team and the Arashikage all join up. But I suppose what kind of got that thought going was, what's Larry going to do with Laura 343? He has introduced new characters into the Real American Hero universe over the last couple of years. Could Laura 343, is she going to become a member of the Arashikage? They're picking up all these kind of stray dogs on their travels, like Milo.
Yeah, maybe even a Joe member.
She's definitely, from right at the very beginning when she was first introduced, we were asking the question, like, how is this character going to evolve? What's going to happen here? And maybe her story isn't going to be concluded with issue 275. Maybe there's a lot more for Laura 343 in the future.
What I find interesting, actually, is the psychology of Laura 343 from a reader's perspective is from that first issue where she's kind of first introduced, which I think was either slightly prior to Snake Hunt kicking off, where you see inside the house, or it's like the very first issue. I think it might have been slightly prior to that. I can't remember now. Whenever it was, when we first see her, and we go into the house, and there she is, and she's called Laura 343, and you see all of the different, Vipers and Cobra troopers without their helmets and stuff. I looked at the character, and I just thought, they've given her a name, 343, so that she's going to be easily dispatched in a couple of issues, like as a, all of these, like, it's the only way to give them some sort of personality is to give them a number or whatever. So that's all I thought of her initially. And then as you go through, like that, the second time we see her and she's kind of like, she's coming in to take Snake Eyes off to be, you know, transported, and she talks about all of the waste and all of her kind of like all of her soldiers under her command have been like killed, and she's, you know, she's lamenting that fact. And then the transportation aspect, and she has to kind of be the one to subdue Throwdown on the way back.
Yes.
You know, after he kind of takes out all those other idiots who were trying to basically, you know, kick him and beat him and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, being put in charge, or like, you know, being almost like disrespected by Cobra Commander and said, like, you're going to just look after him and babysit him and shoot him if he tries to get out, kind of thing. And not shooting him because she knew that was the wrong thing to do. You can't just kill an unarmed prisoner no matter what's happening. So, you know, all of these different things have built her character to the point where now I'm thinking, from going from what I thought was just going to be cannon fodder in the first issue or first seeing her, to being like this major character who is probably going to be developed a little bit more going forward. It's quite interesting that that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, she's certainly shown like she has you know, a conscience. She's got a, you know, a sense of this kind of honor of right and wrong, and she's proved to be very, you know, very tactical. So you give that example there where she's able to subdue Snake Eyes when he's cutting loose on a HISS tank up in the air, taking out aircraft and everything.
Yeah,
she's the only one able to take him down, and
that was a bloody good issue, wasn't it? As well, just going back to that one.
That was a cracker issue. That was, and if anyone hasn't listened to that particular, you know, news burst, go back and find that issue. It's fucking amazing. Our news burst is amazing, is what I mean, and the comic. But even in this issue, Laura 343 is, again, she's tactically much more aware than the Night Creepers.
Yeah,
like she's saying, you know, don't fucking shoot. He'll see where you are.
Yeah.
You know, like she has enough sense to kind of wait until she can be certain of the kill before she'll attack.
Yeah.
The Night Creepers are stupid, basically, and that's their downfall. So maybe he sees in Laura 343 a potential asset for G.I. Joe, and that's why he wants to take her out there. Which would be great, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, what would you give this in terms of a rating, bud?
I've got to go the full 5 on this. I mean, it's, you know, we've been waiting for all-out action.
Yeah.
It's been a long build-up to this one.
Why not?
It's awesome, you know, full 5, and won't be disappointed if you pick this up, guys. Get out there, even though we've totally spoiled it for you already, and buy that comic.
Yeah, full force 5 from me as well. Like I have had my criticisms of the story overall, and, you know, some aspects of, like, you know, and errors and stuff in previous issues. But overall, like, and especially in this issue, I really enjoyed it, and it's great seeing all the different vehicles, different characters. You know, at this point, he's not throwing in loads more that we haven't already seen. We're seeing kind of more of the same, which is great. You know, more of the Insurgent team, more of the Arashikage team, more of what's going on outside with the, you know, the October Guard and all that kind of jazz. So, yeah, I'm going 5 on this one. Action-packed, loads of fun, lots of awesome, amazing artwork as well. I'm really excited to see now how it finishes. Very intrigued as well as to where the story goes. Obviously, A Real American Hero doesn't stop after this issue, but in terms of an arc, it will be interesting to see what Larry does with that issue itself, and then also interesting to see where they go from there, because I know there's going to be, like, Untold Tales, I think is going to start happening in A Real American Hero, where they do, I guess, like flashbacks from missions that have happened in the past, which sounds great to me. Like, it sounds like a really cool idea to do that with some of the issues following this, to kind of give us a bit of a breather in terms of a long-winded arc.
You know, I actually like that idea, because certainly there's going to be a lot of fallout after the events of Snake Hunt.
Yeah.
And with some flashback issues, it could be a nice way to fill in some of those unexplained questions about the October Guard.
Which, hell yes.
You know, queerly, there's a lot of stuff going on there with those guys that I just can't see them being able to fully detail that out in one final issue.
Not in one silent issue, no, totally not.
So, you know, so there's that which potentially could be a lot to look forward to. That could be really exciting, and a great way to bring them back into the Joe universe. In terms of fallout for Cobra, I mean, their facility has been completely compromised. Not just the community centre, but all of Springfield has been compromised. There'll be massive fallout for that. Even if the Joes, even if some of them only make it out alive, they're all, in breach of direct orders. So it's going to be fallout for the Joe team as well. Larry has actually very cleverly set up a lot of ingredients for some really compelling storytelling in future episodes. So I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Brian, thanks for jumping on and chatting another comics burst with me, another A Real American Hero classic.
Yes, my pleasure.
That's it for this installment of the Full Force Comics Burst. Thank you to my awesome co-host Brian Hickey. See you next time, and as always,
Full Force!
Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @The Full Force, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/The Full Force, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback or questions. We have also started a Patreon page, so if you want to see your name up in lights on these videos or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force. And a big shout out to our sponsors, Distant Planet Comics and Collectibles, located at 601 Business Loop 70 West Suite 263, located in the Parkade Center, Columbia, Missouri. You can visit their website at distantplanetcomics.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/distantplanetcomics.